Casimir the Great, 1310 to 1370. Casimir was born on the 30th of April 1310 in Kławia, a province in Poland. He was the son of Władysław, who was the king of Poland between 1305 and 1333. His mother, the wife of Władysław, was Jadwiga of Kalisz. Casimir's love life can be described as stormy. He married many women despite his faith in Christianity. He was first married in 1325 to Anna, the daughter of the Duke of Lithuania. They had a daughter named Elizabeth. The second daughter was Kunigunda. Anna died in 1339. He then married, after two broken engagements, Adelaide of Hessen. He soon abandoned her and secretly married Christina Robicana from Prague. In 1365, on the strength of a forged papal dispensation, he married Jadwiga from Zagan, with whom he had a daughter named Anna. In his will, he mentions children by a certain woman named Kudna, and there were persistent romantic rumours regarding a Jewess named Esteka. Casimir the Great succeeded his father when he died and became king of Poland in 1333. He was the last ruler of Poland from the Great Piast dynasty. He is the only king of Poland to have ever carried the cognomen Great throughout his entire ruling period of Poland. When he ascended the throne in 1333, Poland was only a conglomeration of two provinces, Greater and Lesser Poland. Władysław had reunited the kingdom. This turned Poland into a weak country. It was down to young Casimir to face the daunting task of restoring his kingdom by continuing his father's work. This included reclaiming lost provinces, filling the empty treasury, ensuring peace and prosperity for his subjects. Nonetheless, he managed in a short time to accomplish what his father had aimed for. Poland began to change. Inhabitants represented a number of cultures and religions. Poland enjoyed an influx of Italians, Jews, Flemish people, Wallachians, Germans, Englishmen and Scots, Frenchmen and several other groups. After all the hard work and wars he delved in, Casimir deserved the title Casimir the Great. His death on November 5th, 1370 caused sadness and anxiety among his subjects. His funeral was on the scale of his reign.
Casimir III is said to have found Poland in wood and left it in brick. You may ask yourself why he is remembered as such a good king and why some Polish historians refer to the time he ruled as the most glorious and happy period of their history. There are many answers to this question. When Casimir first became king in 1333, Poland was fractured and longed for land that had been lost. Its economy was ruined, the country was depopulated, and it was exhausted by war. Casimir tried to resuscitate Poland by securing the kingdom against foreign enemies. For example, by attacking the Knights of the Teutonic Order, people who had been in a continual state of warfare with them for a long time, and later he made peace with Bohemia. In 1334, he made peace with the Czechs. It is well known that Casimir considered war a necessity, not a choice, and took part in wars to ensure safety against foreign enemies, as opposed to the desire for glory. He extended the Polish Empire so that by the time he had died, the country had doubled in size. This can be seen if we compare the two maps on screen. This strengthened Poland's role on the European stage. He also left the country prosperous, wealthy, and with great future prospects. He is remembered for paying great attention to the interior administration of his kingdom. He focused on strengthening the Polish government by seeking the help of talented governmental advisors. In 1347, a book of official laws was committed to writing. In other words, the laws were codified for the first time, and a land tax was implemented. During his reign as king, he focused on building, enlarging, and improving towns and building many new castles. Under his reign, approximately 50 castles were built across Poland, and 27 towns were surrounded by protective walls. Casimir also emphasized the importance of law and learning, and so founded a university in Krakow, which focused on the disciplines of law, medicine, and astronomy. This is now the oldest university in Poland. He built up the country economically by promoting industry and encouraging trade. Unlike most countries in Europe, Poland escaped the Black Death and economic life was not disrupted.
As I mentioned earlier, King Casimir was a kind king. The nobles called him Rex Roticorum, meaning king of the peasants, because he used to relieve peasants from the oppressions of the nobility.
Not only was he nice to the peasants, but he also welcomed Polish Jews and saw them as an asset to his country. On October 9, 1334, he confirmed the privilege granted to Jewish Poles in 1264. He also ordered the death penalty for those who kidnapped Jewish children in order to baptize them as Christians by force, and inflicted heavy punishment for the desecration of Jewish cemeteries. Under his rule, Jews were allowed to settle in great numbers and were protected as people of the king. This may not seem such surprising behaviour for a king today, but it is important to remember that Casimir's treatment of Jews and Polish peasants was unusually just and fair-minded at the time.
Casimir the Great was considered to have failed only once during his reign, and that was the fact that after being married 4 times and having had one mistress, he failed to produce a legitimate male heir to succeed him following his death. His first wife, Aldona of Lithuania, the daughter of Gediminas of Lithuania and Juvna. Gediminas was the ruler of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania between 1316 and 1341, and a devout pagan. Aldona bore Casimir 2 daughters, the first in 1326, Elizabeth, and the second in 1334, Kunigund of Poland. At this time, Casimir and Aldona would have only been around 15 years of age. Their marriage was a purely political move in order to create a Polish-Lithuanian commonwealth against the Teutonic Knights, with whom there had been a dispute for many years over Pomerania and its surrounding provinces. Following the wedding, Gediminas released all Polish prisoners, and there would be no fighting between Poland and Lithuania until the end of Aldona's life. Aldona was devoted to music and always had a band of court musicians with her wherever she went. Unfortunately, only 5 years after the birth of her second daughter, Aldona died in Krakow on the 26th of May, 1339. The cause of death remains unknown. Casimir's and Aldona's marriage lasted 14 years. The eldest daughter, Elizabeth of Poland, went on to marry Duke Bogislaw V of Pomerania. The couple had one daughter who went on to marry Charles IV, ruler of the Holy Roman Empire. The younger of the 2 sisters married Louis IV of the Holy Roman Empire on New Year's Day in 1345. 2 years after the death of Aldona, Casimir wedded his second spouse, Adelheid of Hesse, the daughter of Henry II and Elizabeth of Thuringia, and the maternal granddaughter of Frederick I of Hesse. Their loveless marriage ended childless in 1356 after 15 years living separate lives in different places. After the melancholic end to his second marriage, Casimir declared himself divorced from Adelheid so he could go on to marry his long-term mistress, Christina, a former lady-in-waiting to the court of Bohemia. Casimir whisked Christina back to Poland from Prague, and after much convincing, the Benedictine Abbey of Tyniec agreed to marry the pair in a secret ceremony. Adelheid took the issue of her unresolved marriage to the Pope, who in turn complained to the king due to his bigamous and immoral behaviour. Hedwig of Zagan was the fourth wife of Casimir. Married in 1365, she was the daughter of Henry V of Iron, Duke of Zagan, and Anna Mazovia. She bore him a further 3 daughters. Their firstborn was Anna of Poland, born in 1366, who went on to marry William of Celje, to make her a Countess of Celje, with whom she had a daughter named Anne of Cilli. Her second marriage to Ulrich, Duke of Teck, was childless. His second daughter, Kunigund of Poland, born in 1367, died aged 3. Finally, Hedwig of Poland, born in 1368, was said to have married, but no more information is known. Due to Casimir's former wives, Adelheid and Christina, still surviving, this marriage was also considered bigamous. Originally, the legitimacy of the 3 daughters from this marriage were disputed. However, they were later legitimized by Pope Urban V and Pope Gregory XI. Ironically, Casimir's only male children were born out of wedlock and were therefore illegitimate, meaning that they could not inherit the throne of Poland. Nevertheless, the 2 boys that survived their father, Niemiec and Jan, inherited lands around Spotnica. Casimir considered all of his own descendants as either too young or unsuitable to become king. Thankfully, Casimir's sister,